Axuum, yes. That was actually our first operational day in Ethiopia on our first detachment, so I think after that we wondered, if we were in this game, in the right game or not. But yeah, I think we'd done 3 shuttles on that particular day already, and we landed at a place called Axuum up in the hills near the Eritrean border. And I now know, having spent a lot of time there, that it's a famous archaeological site. But that didn't worry us at the time. What worried us was that as we touched down there was a bit of a thump from underneath, and we found we couldn't get the ground turbine compressor going. The GTC runs a little generator. It's a little jet engine that runs a generator that allows you to generate electrical power on the ground when the engines aren't running, and that wouldn't fire up. And when we taxied in and the loadie got out to chock the aircraft, he said, there's a bit of a problem. One of the wheels has exploded, and it looked like we'd just hit a sharp piece of rock which had burst a tyre. But if you've seen what happens to a Formula 1 car when it bursts a tyre doing 100 and something miles an hour, that's exactly what it had done to our wheel well. And in that wheel well is the GTC, the ground turbine compressor, a load of hydraulics and some electrical wiring, and all that was just destroyed. So we had a bit of an issue with that because we had no spare wheel and no jack in any case. So we sort of had to ring home for advice, and they said, well, we'll send someone out to pick you up. But then the local ground commander came along and said, yeah, we think there might be a bit of a battle going to happen here, so you might want to leave as soon as you can. And we could hear a bit of noise off to the left there on the other side of the mountain. Unfortunately, this is where our flight engineer came up trumps, because he'd been talking to a United States Air Force crew who'd handed him a photocopy of a battle damage repair manual that had sort of been passed down from hand to hand from Vietnam days. And it showed how you could wrap chains and chain tensioners round the bits of undercarriage in the main wheel well and artificially raise the front wheel or the back wheel, whichever one it was, off the ground so you could work on it. And that's exactly what we did, following these diagrams, wrapping chains around bits of structure and then tensioning them up to raise the wheel off the ground. So we got the wheel off, and then we had to decide what we were going to do, and we thought with the noises becoming even more loud, it probably was time to depart. So we did our crash drill and took all the safety hatches out and did a takeoff. And in fact, because by that time we'd been burning fuel all day, we couldn't obviously shut all the engines down, because then we'd have no electrical power and no compressed air to start them again. So we had to keep an engine running. We burned off a lot of fuel. The aircraft was empty of freight, so it theoretically had a very easy takeoff, even hot and high. But if we'd lost another tyre on the same side at a critical point, the aircraft would have ground looped, and who knows what would have happened. But as it happened, all the other tyres were intact still and up to the task, and we took off and flew back to Addis Ababa. But unfortunately we found that a Russian Cub transport had decided to have a crash at Addis Ababa and had come to rest sort of at an angle right in the middle of the runway. But fortunately, again, the aircraft was very light by that stage, and we were able to land over the top of the crashed aircraft on the half runway that was remaining, using that excellent reverse thrust under Hercules capability. Without using the brakes at all, we managed to stop well within half a runway's length at Addis Ababa, even at 7,500 feet. So we all walked away from it, but yeah, it was a long debrief at the end of that day. Quite a few cans of beer, I think, got consumed while we thought about what we did.